Hey, it's Josiah, and today we're talking about Slipknot. That's right. A friend of the show and frequent returning guest, Iowan, aka Stewie Griffin DJ, wanted me to listen to the album Iowa by Slipknot so that I could tell him whether it accurately represents what growing up in Iowa is like. I'll answer that in the episode. But being from Iowa and having spent a little time in the Des Moines music scene, Slipknot is a bit of a weird subject for me. For a band I don't really like, I have spent a lot of time thinking about them and the role they've played for the state. So on today's episode, we listen to Iowa, the album, and we're talking about Slipknot. But because I'm a bit of a Slipknot hater, I wanted a bit more objectivity. So I brought on Fruitless's resident Midwestern metalhead, Josh Christensen, to, help round out the perspectives on this episode. This is a fun one. I hope you enjoy it. But before we get into the episode, I do need to say that you can support the show on Patreon. For a mere $3 a month, you get access to additional bonus episodes, the occasional deleted scene, and of course, the Fruitless Discord. Recent episodes on the Patreon have included 2 different music exchange episodes with Josh last month, so if you like today's episode, you'll definitely want to check those out. We talk about Mastodon, Cage the Elephant, Tom Waits, I Ate God. It's great. Coming later on in the month, there will be an episode with my good friend Nate Thiessen talking about my conversion to being a sports guy over the last year. So yeah, some fun episodes behind that paywall, so go check that out. And if you're not quite ready to commit to supporting the show financially, just consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps people find the show, and it takes like 5 seconds. And hey, maybe I'll read your review at the top of an episode. All right, with all that out of the way, let's get on with the episode. You are listening to Fruitless, a podcast hosted by me, Josiah Sutton. This is episode 58, not Iowan. With a K. Anyway, we're talking about Iowa by Slipknot. And I was trying to get a pun in there, and like some people from Iowa kind of disowned Slipknot, and so I thought that was kind of like a fun play on that. And also, Alien accuses me of not really being Midwestern at one point, so it's like not Iowan, but also like you could be a Slipknot type of Iowan, Okay, you get the gist.
So, is this album how it feels to live in Iowa?
Oh, that's what you wanted to start with?
Does this album sound how it feels to live in Iowa? Like, does it artistically capture?
It sounds like what, I don't know. This was the premise you had going into this episode, was wanting to do that. And I think it sounds like what it feels like to be a pissed off, like, teenager in any small town setting. It's not super unique to Iowa. So also it kind of makes perfect sense why this album blew up and why Slipknot blew up.
Yeah. Also, they were kind of riding a wave, right?
They were riding the wave.
Yeah. Like, they didn't create nu metal. Like, nu metal was already hot before they were hot.
It was like,
probably like 5 years before they were hot.
Oh yeah. By the time I think the first Slipknot record came out, nu metal was already considered a spent force in the industry. Like, Korn wasn't selling as well, Limp Bizkit wasn't selling as well, and they were really the first wave nu metal bands.
I guess, and that's when they they were able to extend it for, like, well, here's the thing that's interesting about it is that I agree with you in a way, but what's interesting about it is that, like, what is the biggest nu metal band of all time? It's Linkin Park. And they don't even debut until 2000. And so it is true that first wave, but what's interesting was noted on by bands at the time is that a lot of those bands formed at similar times. And what happened was that, like, labels went out and, like, grabbed their first crop of them. And then they kind of, like, ran a lot of them into the ground. And then, like, oh, fuck, like, we need to go. And then, like, went back. And you got the impression these were new bands, but they really weren't. They were just, like, people who hadn't been signed, who a lot of the times the same, like, mid-90s zeitgeist that was happening anyway, except for Linkin Park, who were essentially like the Monkees, were like a fake studio created band. And also, I gotta be real, way better than most of the bands that paid their dues.
yeah no, that's true.
Like, dude, they got Chester Bennington.
Yeah, I'll go through periods of my life where I'm like kind of shitting on Linkin Park, and then I go back to like Meteora or whatever, and I'm like,
yeah, it's real.
It's pretty good. It
is like one of the better arguments for corporate involvement in music because you have, by like the end of the 90s, it's like, what are the like hottest nu metal bands doing? It's like, okay, Rage Against the Machine is in complete disarray. Deftones is popping, but off the deep end doing their own thing, where Chino Marino is like whispering every single song. And fucking Limp Bizkit like had their fucking first song says the word fuck like 70 times in it. It's named like chocolate starfish hot dog flavored water. And they're doing like they're like rap battling with Korn, like calling each other gay a million times. And then it makes sense if you're a studio head to be like, guys, let's just get a guy who can rap and a guy who can like scream, and then fucking make a band, and then they won't do this annoying bullshit, and it totally works. And to be fair, the band Zero, Xero, did exist and like Linkin Park was already like semi-formed. It wasn't like completely like they cast every member like they did with the Monkees, but it was not that far from that. Like they really did just kind of grab. I think it was like literally like someone's agent, like Mike Shinoda and Chester Bennington shared an agent or something like that. It was seriously like some like studio bullshit. There is a notorious story where some exec, after they had like formed as a band and practiced together, like took Chester Bennington aside and was like, you know, like you're a really good singer. Why do you need a rapper, man? Why don't you just fucking kick Mike Shinoda out of the band, dude? Who needs that shit? And he told this story to the band, and Mike Shinoda like froze, like his blood went out of his face. And then he was like, "What did you say?" And he said, "I told him to go fuck himself." That's all that was out of his. And like, I love that they formed as a band and immediately were like, "We're together forever." For like practicing for like 2 months. I'm like, that's awesome. Like,
that's so cool. But we are not here to talk about Linkin Park, though.
We're here to talk about a much more brutal, epic, and mask-based band.
Yeah, we're talking about Slipknot. Now, this was Alien's idea, and it was predominantly
being named Iowa.
And it was predominantly based off of that opening question. Was he wanted to ask me if this is what it was like growing up in Iowa. And, you know, that opened a lot of conversation that, like, I want to get into here about, like, Iowa's relationship with Slipknot, so we'll get into that. But I also wanted to recruit somebody who doesn't hate Slipknot, because here's the thing. I'm a hater. I am a hater, and I'm not as much of a hater as a lot of people are here. I have grown a soft spot for them over time. I like aspects of them. I didn't hate this record when listening to it, but I needed somebody who was like more of a metalhead. So we got Josh here to be a little bit more of an objective voice here.
Present. Yeah, we'll see.
So tad more objective, but also still with that Midwest perspective. You still got the Midwest perspective. But like, yeah, like from my perspective, Slipknot is the band that Iowa never got over. And it's really hard not to have grown resentful of them. But maybe before we get into that, Alien, like, what's your relationship to Slipknot? Like,
I mean, I really don't have one aside from just like, I don't have like a close personal connection other than just like going back through the nu metal catalog and just trying to listen to all the notable records, because I was kind of interested in it, and I am still very interested in it as like both a movement and a moment in metal and heavy music, which I think still, in a lot of ways, I think it's funny because nu metal is often classified as like deader than a doornail, but in a way it's like, did we ever leave nu metal? Like, I think we're kind of more like, we're still in the nu metal era in a lot of ways. And okay, just to like be real, I think that like they have a lot of songs that are like so in the fabric of like not just the metal, but like the rock consciousness that they can never be replaced. They are totally irreplaceable. They are just part of the fabric now. I push my fingers into
I know, right?
Yeah, or like fucking I did my time. It's like you can't ever take that out. That's permanently in there. But the visual gimmicks are like incredibly fucking stupid and corny, and like it's like ICP shit. It's like it's so fucking lame, and it's like that is like some of the most influential stuff that came from Slipknot, and it just like led to the popularization of like fucking like Mushroom Head and like Head Pea and like Hollywood Undead and like all of these like incredibly awful visual gimmick bands. Like that's so fucking lame. They do have too many members. They don't need 9 members. They could accomplish 90% of the sound they're getting to with like max 6 people. Really?
Maximum. I mean, honestly, this is a 4-person band. It should be.
It's they could do it as a 3-piece and a laptop if they wanted to. Like, it's
maybe be a little generous with 6. But you know what I'm saying? Like you.
Like, I don't know. Right. There are guys doing this stuff as like a 3-piece and a laptop these days. You know,
like it is unnecessary.
But they're not at the same time, they're not them without that shit thoe.
Yes. That's like, so central to them.
It's so baked into the identity and the entire draw of it. But yeah, it's like I've been developing a theory on Midwestern cultural products, and I think this is something inextricable and quintessential about, let's say, truly great Midwestern art. There has to be an aspect of it that just sucks shit. Yes. But it's also load bearing. You know, so it's like, let's go to something like Smashing Pumpkins. Okay. Some of the, like, Billy Corgan is one of the greatest rock songwriters of his generation, and his voice sucks ass, but that band is not that band without Billy Corgan whining over those arrangements.
Yeah.
And so same for Slipknot. It's like, okay, is there a world where we get Iowa, but then it has more traditional heavy metal aesthetics and they are just a band? I don't think that record blows up like Iowa does.
No. Well, and I think the kind of aesthetics they pull from a lot is kind of important because as the Midwest thing, because I think despite I kind of just hate the look of this shit. The whole attraction to like the look of a rusty slaughterhouse as being the horror, the kind of thing you go to horror aesthetic wise. Like, that's Iowa. That is the Midwest. Like, if you want to look at what is horror, what is the horrifying thing in the Midwest, it's the slaughterhouse. You know, it's the factory farm. And so, like, as much as I hate the, like, that, like, Rob Zombie look that's kind of, like, influenced by that fucking nasty slaughterhouse look, I think that is, like, the look of Midwest horror.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of defining, like, Midwest music, like, honestly, what does come to mind is, like, ICP, Eminem, like, I mean, especially in hip hop, ICP, Eminem, Esham, like, this is where like horrorcore really comes from, right? There's stuff like a little bit before that you could call that, but like that's really like Michigan is the first place that has like a horrorcore scene, and like it's very, it's like it's like very like Danzig.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's it like
check
what was
out
that
the
quote
previous episode from last October talking about Danzig.
Episode with Jackal about Danzig.
Jackal and Caleb.
That quote that he says about like I measure how good a monster movie is by how often the monster is in it, like that kind of like mindset. Like that feels very. I know that he's from New Jersey, and New Jersey actually they have their own sort of follow up to Danzig, which is My Chemical Romance, who were who sort of were like, well, what if we did this but gay? And that was kind of cool. But
that is cool. I mean, that's such a funny way to put that, but I mean, it is kind of true. And also, I like My Chemical Romance.
I fucking love MCR, dude.
Yeah.
I have a Thailand originating tape of 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge over there. Okay.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, Teenagers was like one of the first songs I learned on guitar, so
hell yeah. But yeah, when I think of Slipknot, what I really think of them as is as one of the heavier nu metal bands, at least to go mainstream.
The more metal of the nu metal.
Right.
Sure.
And you know, totally as corny as they were in a way, it feels like very genuine. There's none of the like vaguely cynical feeling you get off of a band like Stained. they feel very distinctive, right? Despite all of those other things, like the incredibly huge number of members, like the absurd, like borderline pomposity and this like are you scared, little girl, like weird shit. Like it's like with this like it feels like very, if anything, it feels like all this shit that was kind of under the surface of a band like Korn, but just like amped up times like a million, and in many ways like separated from real experience even more. Like Jonathan Davis, you know, is a lot of the times talking about, or like elliptically referring to, his own like traumatic experiences. And I know that the guys at Slipknot have talked about their own issues and their own trials and tribulations, but like you're like kind of meaty in Slipknot lyric is like, who the fuck are you? Fuck you! From fucking from Be Legal Shit. That's the meaty in Slipknot lyric, is who the fuck are you? Fuck you. Like it's like very like jump the fuck up. Like it feels again like almost like proto like Attila or like Emer, like more bands that feel very influenced by Slipknot. Emer especially feels really Slipknot influenced to me. Yeah. But Emer is like that, is like sort of that sort of shit plus like a frat guy mindset. So there's like songs about like girls cheating on you and stuff like that. There's a song where he really angrily says, "I want to see you suck his dick." And if you look up the YouTube video for that song, the number one comment is just the word cuckcore.
That's perfect. That's great.
Shout out to Emer. Actually pretty fun. I kind of love that like really terrible deathcore shit that everyone makes fun of. It's like, if I was like Speaker for the Dead or something, it like kind of brings me a lot of joy to just hear them like yell about like, I want to finish what I started, and then it's like the song is named like Pac-Man versus the Ghosts.
Yep,
like, it's pretty funny. Like,
oh man, like this is a complete aside, but Frankie Palmieri, the creative genius behind Emure, that was an object of fascination. I was a Metal Sucks reader for many years.
Hell yeah.
when all this, so it was like their editorial voice was very much like more they were warming up to Slipknot at that time, but they were like pretty anti nu metal, really suspicious of a lot of like the scene core bands. Like Emure was in, it's all the Warped Tour deathcore. You know, is like the stuff that blew up. But yeah, no, like there were like interviews where the guy like is all but saying he's like an incarnation of the character M. Bison from Street Fighter.
Dude, I love him so much.
I know, like, so it's like video games are like literally a pantheon for him, and he's just working out all of his psychological issues by embodying like Street Fighter characters. In his absolute brain dead deathcore band.
Who can hate Emure? Like,
who can hate that?
All the songs are like "fuck you, I'm gonna smoke weed," and then they're named like "I'm wave shining" in Super Smash Bros. Melee. Like it's so funny. It's the funniest aesthetic a band has ever had. Like. Fuck, man. But okay, but that actually like leads to another point, which is that the context of this album came out in, right? They'd put out, okay, well, all right, their major label debuts in '99. They have kind of like an Eminem Infinite equivalent before then, like a first album that people don't consider their first album.
It's like called Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat. It was like
incredibly fucking stupid. It has like it's a different singer. And if you look at their pictures at the time, like their masks don't look as good. They look like fucking like WCW wrestlers. Like they look terrible. And if you listen to that album, it's like creative. It's clearly like pretty like Mike Patton adjacent, but like it's not there, right? And whatever, there's like big lineup changes. I'm not gonna go into them, like, but basically Corey Taylor joins, and it's like, yeah, okay, obviously this is like, you need a guy like this, right? Like you need an actual frontman who like has charisma to make this shit work.
And also, I mean, frankly, an asshole. You need an asshole at the front to be able to do these kind of like, fuck you kind of lyrics. You know what I mean?
Fucking, you need a Fred Durst, bro. This is like a Midwest version of a Fred Durst. Is like a guy in like a fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre mask, right? Like, in a boiler room, fucking one piece and numbers on them and a barcode. Yeah, it's not too many gimmicks, guys. You're not putting a hat on a hat or anything. but it's not too many things. Don't ever think it's too many things.
Yeah, what it's like, we're all Jasons. We're all Leatherface. We're all also escaped mental patients from the haunted slaughterhouse asylum.
It's too many things.
It's every yeah.
But that's kind of the aesthetic, though, right? It's just throwing all this like
it's
gnarly,
very postmodern, unironically.
Yeah, right. Yep. But like just throwing all this like gnarly aesthetic things at once. It just like it's the dizzy. I mean, I keep mentioning Rob Zombie here aesthetically, but I think that's kind of a reference point to me too. Here is the kind of like dizzying degree of like, what if there was a fucked up clown that killed pigs?
Yeah. Yeah,
it's a lot, but it's like a whole band that's like an extrapolation on like a guy who wears like white contact lenses and looks at you too long. But like, it's. I mean, okay, the musical landscape in 2001 is interesting because like they're already pretty established, right? Because self-titled is huge. They also get the Ross Robinson on production, which is massive. He's like the guy you want if you're making a new metal album at this time. Like that's like a massive seal of approval. It like shows that you're like legit and in the big leagues now. Made like the first metal album ever on Pro Tools.
Yeah, sure.
Very legendary figure. Although this album actually, Iowa was recorded at Sound City, which like every important album ever was recorded at, on the Neve board, the famous 1 of 3 Neve board that now is in Dave Grohl's house because he bought it. And it is one of the best, all analog, and one of the best recording environments that has like ever existed. But the thing is that like at this time, we think about it as, you know, maybe like a little after the apex, but like near the apex of the popularity of nu metal, near the apex of the popularity of like post grunge. Obviously I brought up Stained, like a band that's a lot of crossover, but like Creed is going diamond, like fucking Limp Bizkit breaks the all-time first week sales record. Like it's like getting a little absurd, and like the biggest band in the world is fucking Linkin Park. And at the same time, this is like a moment of like very intense flux. I'm gonna be compressing a lot. There are literally entire books written about how much the music industry changed in the early 2000s and like all the implications of it.
I believe it.
It's like it's like literally the most turbulent time in the music industry since like literally recorded music was created, because we had file sharing gets created, that changes the entire model of how music works up until the present. But this is also a really turbulent time for rock music. Because we do have these extremely huge nu metal bands and post-grunge bands, which is what the era is mostly remembered for. But it's easy to forget this is a huge time for pop punk.
Yeah. This is where I was like, the stuff I'm listening to from the 2000s around this time was predominantly in this, like the emo, the pop punk, the post-hardcore, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the third wave of emo is really 2001 is the year it starts to sort of figure itself out. This is when Dashboard Confessional breaks, which is probably the first band to touch the bag in terms of figuring out what the third wave of emo is going to be.
To reference the Midwest stuff, this is also the birth of Midwest emo, which is like
no, it's like towards the end of Midwest emo.
Come on, the first American football record's like at the end of the 90s, right?
Yeah, that's like 99, but like
yeah.
The thing is, like, it's already starting to turn into the next thing by 2001, right? Like, it's already starting to form into the next thing. And, like, we're already starting to see these bands that are marketed with emo aesthetics, but are more based in sort of a pop punk sensibility, like Jimmy Eat World, for example.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is the year that Pinkerton slouches to going platinum, and then Weezer comes back with the Green Album and then goes platinum the same month with their new record. You know, this is in terms of just pop punk and emo, this is also the year that both My Chemical Romance and Fall Out Boy form.
Yep.
So that's what's on the horizon next. These are bands, and this is important, these are bands that have primarily female listener bases, especially Dashboard Confessional. And that's going to be one of the things that influences going forward, is this sort of break in demographic that occurs. Because also during this time we have, like, inexplicably there's like a prog rock revival going on. Oh god, like fucking Tool goes number one and sells like fucking like 500,000 copies or something its first week. It's like fucking all these bands like Coheed and Cambria and like Porcupine Tree and like Mars Volta are all like huge.
That's right. Yeah.
And there's also like the revival, like one of the biggest bands in the world is U2, and not for as a legacy act. Like they actually are releasing new material that's really hot.
That's like when like Vertigo comes out and shit like that, right?
That's when, yeah. All the Things You Can't Leave Behind comes out, and they inexplicably have like a massive career resurgence like 20 years in and are like back to being one of the biggest bands in the world. Fucking Bon Jovi has a gigantic year this year and has like multiple top 10 singles. And here's the thing, all of that, if you were like a cool epic music guy who like reads blogs, who reads like OG 1.0 Pitchfork, all of that shit is whack and not cool to you. And the shit that is cool is the White Stripes and the Strokes, who released their first album this year.
Yeah.
Fucking,
garage rock. That's right.
Yeah, the garage rock revival stuff. And then also like shit coming out of Quebec, like Broken Social Scene, Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Yeah.
All these bands that have like 15 fucking Arcade Fire is putting out their like first EPs around this time. It's like I don't know if it's exactly that year, but it's around that time. And this is when the issue is that the people who are listening to Creed and Nickelback are not the people who are listening to System of a Down, who are not the people who are listening to Dashboard Confessional, who are not the people who are listening to U2. And none of those people are fucking listening to the Strokes. Are you kidding me? And like, this is what's going to be the problem for rock music going forward, is not it's almost an embarrassment of riches, is that the genre has become so multifarious and has so many different viable avenues for it that it can't over centralize around one or two or three or even 10 acts anymore. And this is going to massively impact rock radio. It's going to massively impact all avenues of promotion, even outside of radio. And it's going to mean that there are more bands with fewer fans. And in a way, that's fine, because there are still great rock albums being released to this day. There's still great metal albums being released to this day. But there's never going to be a band as big as Queen again. Fuck, there's never going to be a band as big as Linkin Park again. And at least it doesn't look like it right now. If there is, I don't see how it's going to happen right now. Maybe
Knocked Loose is going to do that.
Maybe. If Knocked Loose goes double platinum like fucking Iowa did. Well, so here's the thing though, like, how does this tie into Slipknot? Well, whereas Linkin Park was one of the last hurrahs of this, like, everybody get together, everybody loves this band kind of bands, where they're just trying to hit like this quarter, like, you know, like this demo and this demo and this demo. Like, we'll appeal to like the hip hop kids and the rap kids, like sort of the thing that was tantalizing to record execs about nu metal, of that you could just get everybody in one big tent and like we'll have Exhibit on the new Limp Bizkit album, like all of this like goofy ass like cross promotion, like proto like Marvel Cinematic Universe shit that they were trying to do with it. You know, as much as I love that record, Slipknot was sort of like more in tune with the direction that things were going to go in rock music, which is like double down on your subgenre, please your fan base, like give the people what they fucking want, and if they are not already teed up to listen to you, don't bother. Like, don't try to meet them halfway. Like, that is the shape of things to come. Literally, unless you are Taylor Swift or Drake, then that is what you do. If you are anyone else, you know, if you're Drake, you still try to have like 90-minute albums that have like, here's a song for the Latin market. But if you're like anyone besides those two people, then you know what your fucking lane is and you like stay in it. Even Kendrick, right?
Yeah.
Like he's firmly just in West Coast hip hop, and sort of that's interesting about Slipknot. And in fact, like, its greatest legacies have been in the underground. Oddly enough, if we're being more charitable, we could talk about like Knocked Loose or the better Bring Me the Horizon albums. If we're being more mean, we could talk about like Slaughter to Prevail, or we could talk about like Sleep Token, or we could
You made a metal touch points playlist, Alien. I gotta admit, I did not finish the Sleep Token or what was it, Slaughter to Prevail. I didn't finish either of those songs. I got about a minute into both of them, and I'm like, I get it. I
think the guy in Slaughter to Prevail's a Nazi too.
Real, yeah.
No, but like a Russian style Nazi. He's not like
like a Nazgul.
Yeah, there's the whole like boneheaded Red State Rock Festival side of the heavy music scene that Slaughter, I don't know, very like manosphere coded type of dude. The whole appeal to, okay, so he goes by Alex the Terrible. Like,
that's so just stupid.
Fucking lame, dude.
And his whole claim. So okay, no, he was a YouTube vocal covers guy.
Dude, we were talking about YouTube metal earlier. We were literally accusing things about YouTube
metal earlier.
Yeah, which, oh my god, we can. Okay, I'll finish the Slaughter to Prevail thing, then we can touch on Sleep Token a little bit. But okay, so he's Alex Terrible. And then like I guess Slaughter to Prevail had a different vocalist at some point, and they saw his like YouTube vocal covers of their early stuff. They're like, oh, he should be in the band. And then his whole like kind of claim to fame that everybody posts on Instagram is like, man, he screams so loud he doesn't need a microphone. And I'm like, that's kind of stupid. I don't care about that.
Okay, he's not going to have vocal cords in a few
he's
years.
Loud.
Got it.
Okay, but he's like, but otherwise just like not really, I don't know, not a very distinctive scream in my opinion. And just, not the kind of deathcore I like.
Sleep Token is just fucking whack. Like Sleep Token is
so whack.
Sleep Token is metal for the people who do like the fucking like mouth agape like shocked YouTuber face when Eminem raps fast and Rap God. Like there's it's like it's awful. Like it's shit that is built for YouTube reaction videos, and that's just like, oh my god, like this is a crazy change to this thing. Oh my god, can you believe that this element is in it? But it's like really relitigating shit that has been like a major part of Warped Tour metal since like I was like literally since like 2012. Like that's like shit that is old at this point. That's dated.
So that's like because they were like the biggest thing in mainstream metal when they were coming out, and I've just kind of lost touch with like modern who cares about Spirit Box? Why is that band as big as they are? I never thought like half of I Wrestled a Bear Once would be the biggest touring metal act, and like I don't know, there's this whole atmosphere in modern metal where it's like it's metal for people who don't like metal. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's the YouTuber thing. It's like it's this eclecticism for eclecticism's sake that I think was a real hotbed for creativity in the MySpace scene era. Because that was really the especially in rock music, kind of the bedrock of like a lot of genre mixing that would become kind of routine later.
Once again, crunkcore was ahead of the curve. Like it's all just crunkcore.
It's all just crunkcore now.
Ronnie Radke is a crunkcore musician. Like let's not kid ourselves. He's a crunkcore musician who like does like Eminem voice.
Oh my god.
You know what he is? He's not even YouTuber metal. He's Instagram Reels metal.
Yeah.
Instagram
Reels. This podcast might actually pop off because Ronnie Radke, famously a reply guy.
I don't get that,
I think
man.
I got in a fight
He's
with
always
him
just
at
like,
one point.
I'm rich, you're washing dishes for a living. And I'm like, well, why are you fucking talking to me, man? Just like enjoy. Dude, I didn't play Fortnite or something, dude.
Yeah, I didn't go to prison for aggravated assault. I didn't go
to prison for aggravated assault. And then when I got out, the music I wrote, the music that I wrote in prison was like, why do good girls like bad guys? And like my life is like a video game. No, I didn't do that. Okay. I think if I went to prison, I'd have much like more interesting things to say than like my life is like a video game, dude. Holy fuck, that's awful. God, what's the other one? There's that one about like cheating on your girlfriend or something. There's like a bunch of like bullshit. But fashionably late. That's that song. No, I mean, okay, to return to Iowa by Slipknot, the thing that like really sets this album apart, even from the album that came before it, which is the same like producer, it's like a lot of the same personnel. Jim Root came in like midway through, so it's like Like I guess like slightly a lineup change, but it's what really makes it distinctive is like the death metal elements and like extreme metal elements that they're adding into it. Although I have to say there's still like a lot of cleans on this album and like a lot of like hookiness. So it's not as like, it's nowhere near as crazy as like Suffocation or something, like stuff that was like that defined death metal in America in like the mid to late 90s. But so that's like maybe a little bit of a thing. And I would think that like it's interesting because it's like, okay, it's like kind of like pretty melodic in places as this death metal influence, obviously taking bits and pieces from other genres. It's interesting that this isn't in like a mellow death discussion at all. Like no one ever brings this up as like a melodic death metal album. And I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just because they aren't influenced by At the Gates at all. But you know, even like the first like Children of Bodom album, which was like released this year, is like pretty influenced by like power metal, which is like, I don't know, man, that's like even cornier than like the shit that like Slipknot is pulling from on this record. No, so it can't really be coolness, and it can't really, maybe it's like just that nu metal is so its own thing that is what subsumes everything else in a way, you know what I mean? And it's interesting that like Slipknot, I was thinking about this today, Slipknot is like one of only a couple, like a very small amount of bands from that era that were nu metal and are considered good, and that you won't get into an argument online about whether they're nu metal.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Usually if a band in nu metal is too good, if they're Rage Against the Machine or they are like Primus or
System of a Down, I think is a big one here.
Deftones. People will get into an argument with you about whether it's nu metal or not.
Yeah, because they treat nu metal as an insult. Yeah,
exactly. No one does that with Slipknot. Which I respect their fans for not being lame about that, and kind of just embracing it for what it is and not being pretentious about it. But when I'll be real, like one of the flaws. So I'm sorry, you hear like, especially in the drumming, is like where you hear like it most obviously, the like death metal influences. But I gotta say, like when Corey goes into his cleans, it like really, I like just like get a hint of that like Stone Sour shit, and I'm like, oh man, like this is kind of lame. And like on like, what is that song called? Like I Am Hated, is that what that song is called?
Yeah,
when it's like it just goes in like the Spoon Man like fucking like radio voice thing, I was like, oh, this is lame. Like this is fucking stupid. And like some of those drum tones where they're just like hitting.
That's the like, Midwest aspect though. Like this kind of gets to Joshua. I don't know. I don't think it's Slipknot without that though.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it's kind of not Slipknot if it doesn't have those overtly whack elements.
Yes,
right?
because like, this is to get a bit into the Iowa side of this, like the actual like being from the state. This is kind of the thing about them is like, and I know this is a fucked up way to put this or whatever, but like the reputation of the band here is predominantly that this is like trailer park trash metal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's got that aesthetic. It's got that vibe. And so everyone from here, if they're not Slipknot fans, are generally embarrassed that Slipknot is from here. So it's like, it's kind of intrinsic to the whole thing.
But this is what gets me, man, is that like you're so proud for being in the Midwest, and yet I feel like you feel separated from this shit in a way, because like this is so, you're right, like Josh is so right. Like this is so endemic. Even a fucking like Eminem, the definitive Midwest rapper, like when you're listening to him, even at his like most adept shit, you're gonna hear like, I got a dick in my brain, fucked in the head. Like you're gonna hear like lyrics that are so fucking bad you can't believe them. It's like, that's part of listening to Eminem. You know what I mean? Like even at his best, he's gonna say some shit that's like, you know, they're like, what is it? There's parental advising whenever I drop or whatever. Like he's always doing these like, what the fuck was that, dude? Like, this is so, Josh is actually very right. Like, this is so part of the Midwest thing. Why are you a soccer playing coastal elite European? Like, why can't you just be like, I think it's sick when he's like, I am bugging, hey, my knife goes into the body. Like shit.
I don't.
In my soul, I feel hurt. Got my knife into the body. Do you want to hurt me? Like, dude, what's the problem, man?
There's a like, well, for one, there's a different, like, the Midwest is got lots of different types of people in it, of course, obviously, right? Because you've been picking on me for like watching soccer, right? For instance, but I mean, my pushback with that would be like, there's a lot of people who watch soccer in here in Iowa, and also there's a lot of Latinos in Iowa that kind of get left out of any conversation about Iowan culture because this is something Phil Chrisman writes about a lot that I think he's really good at, is pointing out that like Iowa isn't, or the Midwest in general isn't as white as it acts like it is. And what we just do is act like everything that's not white in Midwestern culture is an aberration rather than also Midwest culture, And so his whole thing is pointing out like, why are there are these like politicians from like upstate New York that are coded as Midwest to people, but like someone like Ilan Omar, who is in Minneapolis, is not Midwestern to people.
Right.
So, that's one thing I would push back on with that. But also it's like, so my experience of the Des Moines music scene was predominantly through like indie and DIY emo stuff. Like that's what I was in the, hanging out around. And so like there were a lot of those bands that, did pretty okay for themselves. The Envy Corps, Holy White Hounds, a few of those. A lot of them only broke up because they didn't get big enough to make a living, but they were big enough to like have tracks out there that people knew. And then, they eventually had kids and shit, and they're like, I can't live, doing this anymore. And so they eventually stopped. But like in that scene, Slipknot represented something that Iowa could never get past, could never get over. It was something that we were always living in the shadow of. And so this is something I only like, because I was in more of the music scene in like the mid 2010s here. That was like when I was going to a lot of shows and stuff. So it's a little bit past that. So I reached out to my buddy, my cousin, Dave Murphy, who used to be a music blogger in Des Moines for a long time. And he was, he wrote for a blog called Des Moines Is Not Boring. It was like people who were like insistent on there's going to be a fucking scene here. We're trying to build something here. Right. And how he had put it was, I'll just read this. Slipknot's impact was huge because no one from here had ever really made it before. And not only did they make it financially and with notoriety, they were artistically gifted and critically acclaimed. To top it all off, they did it while unabashedly carrying the flag of their hometown and state. I think seeing a band from here get big and be proud of where they came from was a big boost to the population of musicians in Des Moines. The negatives, though, were pretty visible. Although they were not completely Slipknot's fault, I'd say their success inspired a lot of people to pick up a guitar or start a band, but it didn't necessarily inspire a lot of creativity. So what happened was you got a huge wave of awful fucking metal bands in Des Moines for like a decade and a half that were just running the show. And if you were like a dude that was just trying to make like a Strokes like indie rock band, you would struggle to get shows for a while because they'd be like, you're not Slipknot. And that's what we do here now. You're Slipknot. This is Slipknot town. And so then this kind of created this like fucked up economy in Des Moines. So like, as he puts on, their success also changed the economics of the area as promoters and venues wanted to find the next Slipknot. So these bands got more attention over different genres and talents. Also, a lot of people tried to cash in on the success by being unscrupulous and preying a bit on people convinced they could make it big. And I think it ultimately stunted the growth of the scene here. So like when I was playing music, one of the big promoters here was Metro Concerts, which was one of these like scummy kind of promotion organizations that came out kind of trying to find Slipknot bands, and they had this like pay to play model. So like, yeah.
So don't do that, kids. If you're listening,
do not do that. I am so lucky. I think that I played like 5 pay to play shows, and then I was meeting enough people in the scene who were like, "You got to stop that. You got to start organizing your own shows. Do not rely on promoters, man." But they were really slimy about this because they would bring in really terrible metal bands and then be like, you're opening for this national act,
Oh, man.
And so we'll give you like 100 tickets and you got to sell them. And if you don't sell them, then you owe us the amount of money that those tickets were worth. And if you play our game with us, like, we're going to make you big, kid. Like, I remember this guy, Todd, who was like the organizer who was always, or the promoter who was always working with my band for like those 5 shows we did. He's like a really weirdly touchy guy. Like he liked to hug teenage guitarists a lot. So I've been always waiting for some allegations, but regardless. And he would just always be like, you did good, kid. You did good, kid. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. And so there was this entire economy built up around trying to snatch these like dumb hicks and be like, you're going to make it. If you stick with us, you'll be the next Slipknot. So there are two types of people who hate Slipknot in Iowa. There are the people who like were around the music scene and watched like the way that the scene just could not get past trying to create a new Slipknot. Like people like I was playing in like a pop punk band, but because I was like stuck with Metro, I was opening for these metal acts and the whole audience would be like pissed that we were opening and we'd be pissed that we were opening for them too. And, it was a terrible environment to be in. But the other type of hater that's also important and why I don't completely fault Corey Taylor for his like fuck Iowa attitude he started to develop later on. In kind of like I've got all these haters and people in Iowa who hate me now because they're jealous of my success. It's not just that it's that they're the conservative evangelicals in Iowa. Slipknot was like something we shouldn't have let happen. Like, it shouldn't have happened. We let this scary metal band break out and become the band that people know from Iowa. So all of the right-wing, like, Republican guys hated it. And it created a several decade-long war against having a music scene in Des Moines. So, like, the people who owned property were invested in not allowing any arts and culture to flourish here. Like, venues got shut down all the fucking time. People would, like... have their house venues shut down by the police because they'd be like, sorry, you're causing too many people to park in the road on a residential street. So
shout out to Berkeley kids for fucking up the Alston scene last year by talking to the Boston Globe and revealing where all of the underground venues were. Shouts out to Berkeley College of Music.
Oh yeah, that rolls. Yeah, so like it just like in a lot of ways, Slipknot both birthed a music scene in Des Moines and also like kind of killed it. And it's not their fault, but like...
It feels a little strange to me, though, because... Look, okay, something that's going a little bit unsaid is that Des Moines is a city of 220,000 people.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. When, I'm trying to think of, like a very solid example. When NWA broke, right, out of Compton, like the LA area.
Yeah.
LA didn't need... to flex its muscles to create another NWA. There were already 15.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with like New York or frankly, like even to an extent Boston, is that there's something about like it just seemed like, man, that does not seem like it was. If you just describe the situation like the city of like 220,000 people, much more conservative than average, state governance. Probably mayoral governments too. I obviously don't know about the politics of Des
Moines. Technically blue, but it's like the pale blue dot in the center of a red state. Yeah.
And it's a scene that does not have a strong historical precedence of existing.
Sure.
And there is no infrastructure for any sort of legitimate connection to an international music scene. If you're to describe that, then it would be like, well, of course that's not going to happen. Like, that's obviously a fluke. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Except like when you then take the tiny amount of infrastructure that does exist and you orient it around finding the next Slipknot, instead of like, what are the kids actually playing in this fucking city? Like, what do they, like, the just creatives that live here want to create? It wasn't ever feeding that. The infrastructure that existed was either trying to shut down any ability to have a music scene at all because they cause problems and they ruin the reputation of Iowa in the minds of like conservative evangelicals, or we're just looking for the next big cash cow that's Slipknot. You don't have just like the normal kids that were just trying to play bands, play in bands and try to build up something if they could. And so like, it was just kind of a really weird environment to grow in. And the thing is, it seemed like in the early 2010s that stuff was happening in Des Moines again, because again, this is, like I mentioned, Envy Core was one of the big indie rock bands that was kind of coming out of here. And then Holy White Hounds had a good few years. And there were a bunch of other bands like that were like starting to develop like an indie scene in Des Moines. And so there was this idea of like, maybe Des Moines is going to be kind of like a Portland of the Midwest. And I think it could have if a bunch of things didn't happen. And one of those was going after all the, like, because we had 8035 was like this big music festival that was actually growing and bringing a lot of huge national acts. Like, there was something growing. And then 2016 brought the election of Donald Trump. And the right-wing hysteria in Iowa hit a fever pitch within a couple years. And because of that, there was just a complete desire to just tear apart any of the arts and culture that existed here. And so that just basically happened. And just anything that was growing up naturally was getting attacked. Like, there was a wave of like Mexican restaurants getting shut down in Des Moines because the cops were like intentionally going after them with like stings about selling underage alcohol to them. They weren't targeting any other businesses, just like Mexican restaurants. There was a bunch of weird shit like that happened where it just like it felt like the city was trying to destroy any culture that existed in Des Moines. And then the pandemic happened, and very few of the best venues could survive the pandemic. And so now we're kind of here where there are still bands, there's still stuff, there's some new stuff finally opening up, but I just don't see a scene here the way there used to be. And, you know, it's hard to not, I don't know, be bitter at the kind of corporate attitude and the reaction that Slipknot produced for like why nothing happened here when it felt like it could have. You know what I mean? But so that's the Iowan perspective here. But I don't think that's like fair. I don't think that's Slipknot's fault. So.
Yeah.
They were just the band that happened to be there for all this bullshit.
I mean, it is interesting in terms of like, I don't really associate Iowa with any particular like scene, I guess. Like I think I think of bands from there, but in the way that we talk about like fucking, you know, whatever, like Cleveland cliche shit, like Seattle grunge music or whatever.
Yeah.
Like there isn't really such a thing for, or even like, like how, you know, Connecticut became associated with like the fourth wave of emo in the 2010s or something. Like, not just Connecticut, but like Southern New England, right? Like, what I'm saying is that like Iowa has, fairly or not, like kind of a reputation for being like a little cultureless.
Exactly. But this is
no. But I get what you're saying of that. Like that's sometimes portrayed as a just sort of like epiphenomena of everyone there being like a corn-fed hog. And in reality, what you're saying, which makes a lot of sense to me, is that like, no, it's like much more directly just like result of reactionary policies than that. Yeah. Like it's it's like deliberate, right?
Yeah.
It, you know, it's which, you know, is connected to even stuff that we're dealing with on the East Coast, right? Mayor Wu, you gotta let us go home. You gotta let us stay out after 2, dude. You gotta let them serve alcohol after 2. You gotta let them have smoke machines indoors. Okay, you can do it in Cambridge. Let them do it.
Yeah,
you know, like it's, you know, you come on, make the MBTA run. Make the last train not be at 11:30 when the bars close at 2.
Yeah,
you're fucking stranding people in the city.
No, like what? Like,
come on.
Like, I mean, like, to put in perspective how much I'm talking about this being like oligarchs in Iowa that just don't want culture. There was like a whole thing this summer about them almost shutting down the only mid-sized venue in Des Moines because the landlord that owned the business next to it got mad that bands were practicing during business hours. And thank God enough people pushed back on him and said, fuck you. Now, this company that was trying to do this, he worked for a PR firm that did the PR for both the Saudi Crown and also the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Hell yeah,
that jackass was trying to close down the only mid-sized venue that brought in national acts.
Yeah, right. Like the next thing is that's going to be like Mossad is trying to like to take down your next venue.
It's like okay, like I'm just convinced Des Moines exists on a hellmouth or something.
I am too, and I used to be very defensive of this city because I knew a lot of these people in these bands who like were trying. There was some creativity going on here, and like, you know. And that's what I mean is like you don't have the ability to associate like a scene with Des Moines. It's because it kept getting like killed while it was still in the cradle. It was starting to develop, and every time it did, something would fucking happen.
The only guy who's broke from Iowa in the last like 10 years is Dave Blunts.
It's just And this is the thing. So then because of that, everyone who does make it has an attitude of we made it despite the odds.
Yeah,
rather than we're from the Des Moines scene or something like that. Well, it's we did it anyway. So like
you're just dealing with the villains in like a rock opera from 1979.
Sure.
We're trying to make rock music illegal, man.
They literally are.
Yeah, we are the town in Footloose.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, Josiah, you've brought up in many conversations I've had with you, like there's a real brain drain because Des Moines is so proximate to Minneapolis and Chicago that anybody worth their salt just kind of hightails it to a place they can actually play gigs.
Yeah, like a lot of emo bands I think of especially are the ones that like once they were like, okay, we're pretty fucking good, they would just move to Minneapolis.
Right.
I mean, okay, at the very least, you at least have some kids going around in like hand printed like DMHC hoodies and stuff. Like, there are at least, okay, good. That's the baseline.
Yep.
Have we talked about how the recording of this album was like a nightmare in hell?
Yeah, let's get into that because I know that there was a bunch of, this reminds me of shit you've told me about Pinkerton. Funny enough to bring up Weezer a second time, Alien. You've talked about how, wasn't he like record some of those songs on that like while he was recovering from surgery or whatever?
Yeah. He had one leg that was longer than the other, and his shorter leg, he had like the bone breaky surgery where they just like stretch your bones out over a year or something. Oh. And so when he's like screaming on that album, it really is genuinely like he was just like on Percocet or in absolute agony for like a full year.
Yeah, so like that's the kind of shit. That's kind of like what was going on with this album too, because it was like there's like this screaming that's played backwards in 515, and a couple of the other songs is like I think one of the band members finding out his like he had a family member that died.
Yeah, he had a grandfather that was he was close to, and that he was trying to work to get back home. Because obviously they were recording Sound City is in LA. He was trying to find a way to get back to Iowa to be with him before he died, and he died before he could do that. And he did like a vocal take. They were thinking about having him do overdubs for another song, so he did a vocal take and then just like had a breakdown immediately afterwards and just started like scream crying. And apparently that's what's recorded there, which it sounds crazy, but I'm like, I don't know. Some people, stranger than fiction, like some people, their emotional reactions like very hard to in real life, people's emotional reactions are very hard to predict, and sometimes people can react in really extreme ways.
And then also wasn't Corey Taylor in the recording of Iowa, the song on it was like went into the recording booth naked and cut himself with glass while singing it or whatever,
and was like making himself throw up and stuff. I don't know if that was totally necessary.
I don't think so. In my opinion, a semi-forgettable song on the record.
It reminds me of like shit that I heard about like Black Lips back in the day. Of like, you'll never believe this band. They like took out like broke bottles and like cut themselves, and I'm like, was that make their music better? Does it makes them better at playing the music? Ross Robinson got the legendary producer Ross Robinson got into, of all things, a motocross accident midway through the album and like severely fucked his spine up, and like was out for like one day in the hospital and then came back and was like in a wheelchair and recorded the rest of the album in a wheelchair. And the guys would like show up late, and one time he like flipped out and he was like, I'm in a fucking wheelchair! I'm in a wheelchair, you fucking freaks! Like, just show up and do your job. And according to them, they like got in line after that, and because he was actually fucked up, like his spine was really messed up, and apparently he was just like yelling in pain between takes and shit like that. And like Jim Root had like a mental breakdown, and like there's a story about somebody was like, he needs to lie down on a crystal table, and they had a crystal table, and he was like, they're like, it's like I don't know what he said, he didn't know what it was for, but they were like, you gotta lay down on this. Like, this kind of like weird like mixture of like folk remedy and like being on drugs thinking and like a panic attack or something. And it's like Corey Taylor's like severely alcoholic during this period of time, and there's like all sorts of promiscuous encounters with women, sliding in and sliding out, like heavy drug use. Like, it's just a fucking mess. And like, frankly, I'm kind of surprised they recorded it in like a month and a half or something, which is like longer than I don't know. It's like, it's honestly not that much longer than you'd expect it to be. Like that honestly seems fine. That seems perfectly reasonable for the level of complexity that the album is, which is like, it could have easily like turned into a Chinese democracy or something like that. Like it could have easily dragged out into like a fucking nightmare. And the fact that it was like a very condensed nightmare, that they were like efficient while having a breakdown. And they're just saying that, like, I mean, it's kind of a, you know, they even brought up like it was that they were embarrassed. They were doing it and then embarrassed at how cliche they were being as they were doing it. That. But it's really just because these record labels set up these situations for them to happen, especially during this time. Not as much anymore, because records are not in the music. Record companies are not in the music industry anymore, at least majors. But that's a whole other conversation. They're at least not in artist development. But but like it was this thing of that they'd be like, hey, can we have like 40 bottles of Jim Beam? And they're gonna be like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, just like send it to them. And, like, or they just be like, hey, can we get like comped for like all going out to like 5 clubs or whatever? Like, yeah, sure, who gives a fuck? And we'll just like let them do whatever they wanted and just like comp them for it. And it was like very bad, and they just like were all acting like assholes to each other and like just not talking, and then like all going out and like partying with random people in LA. And this is how Corey Taylor tells it is like very funny, because he's like, yeah, we were just a bunch of kids with a bunch of, you know, we were a bunch of on drugs and shit. And I'm like, Sean Cran was 32.
Yeah.
You were like, come on, man. Like, let's not misrepresent it. You were fucked up. Like, you're no, man, this could happen to anybody if they drink enough, really. Like, it was a situation that was a mess, but honestly, like, dude, props once again to Ross Robinson. Like, there's all these stories about like incredibly chaotic recording environments that he just was like the master of, and able to force people to do work despite their worst impulses. Like, shout out to Ross, man. Also produced a ton of awesome post-hardcore records. So shout out to that dude. But yeah, this was a low point, as acknowledged.
He did Relationship of Command.
Yeah, he did do Relationship of Command.
Yeah, that's a record.
He's kind of a fucking legend. He's kind of a fucking legend, man. Dude, Ross Robinson.
That's a Wikipedia rabbit trail for later.
Oh man, he's so many things. It's just, yeah, it's acknowledged as a low point by the band, even as it was in many ways a high point creatively. But I don't know. You see people being like, no one's ever going to top this, because I saw somebody saying, and this is a very funny thing to say, so I'm not making fun of them for saying this comment, because it's something that I might write, is that they said no one will ever top Slipknot's Iowa because they were legitimately evil while recording the album. And it's a very funny thing to say. But I don't know.
Well, it's like, I mean, you can say that, but it's like Burzum exists.
Yeah, and Burzum sucks, dude.
Burzum does suck, but
I'm sorry, I don't even say that because of his beliefs or whatever.
Well, so does I Hate God exists. Shout out to the last Music Exchange episode.
I Hate God, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's related though. Like, I think that it's a situation where you can tend to sort of romanticize those aspects of it. But like I said, was that really necessary? Was it actually necessary for Corey Taylor to, like, you know, stick needles in his dick or whatever the fuck he was doing, and like have sex with 20 women in order to just scream in just the perfect way? I'm like, no, he didn't.
He did not.
Come on, he did not need to do that shit. It was not necessary. Like,
and like, I don't know, because like usually when you do that shit where it's like, oh, this dark background is what gave them the artistic, you know, ability to talk about this stuff. It's usually also with like lyrics, right? Yeah. I don't think you need to have that fucked up a background over it in these lyrics. I'm sorry.
I saw them being like, we're doing all these shifty people around this time. That's why we wrote People Equal Shit to say fuck you. And I'm like, dude, the song is called People Equal Shit. Like, it's not. It's not. dude, people equal shit. It's like not a complicated, like, what point is this even making, really? Like,
right. You're not even doing like Sartre and Misanthropy or something. There's not, you know, like, I don't think Corey Taylor's ever read George Bataille. Like there's just no.
He read Emile Chiron to prepare to record.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's real like
right.
Yeah.
They're just passing a short history of decay around the Sound City.
He's reading Thomas Ligotti before he.
That's right. That's right.
Is he really into Schopenhauer at that time?
Yeah,
but no, like it's just, it feels, well, because most of the lyrics are just like screw you. Like it's seriously like it's. I know that there's stuff that's connected to, oh god, like this is what bothers me, is that I know someone would be like, how dare you, like this such and such song was written in connection with Sean Cran's, like, you know, something, like he's in a car accident or something. I'm like, I'm sure, but if you look at the lyrics on like Genius and just like read them and you like don't know any of the context, then like a lot, if you're 5'5", then I'm 6'6", what's it like to be a heretic? Where I'm like, it's so funny to see like this is where it is interesting to see like nu metal in the 90s. Like, sure, there's a like absurdist stuff that influences it, but it's like notable that in like 91 you have like fucking Rage Against the Machine self-titled, which is like explicitly like not just like left wing but like communist. Then by this point, you know, it's like being pretty explicit in what it's trying to say, very direct in its messaging. And then by the time you get to like 2001, it's like full on like, I am the devil, fuck you. Yeah, like it's like it's just devolved so far.
Man. Well, yeah, because it just really went hard into that like white male suburban disaffection thing. Like that. Yeah, that was the audience.
Actually, it's the shit that the Rock in the Suburbs by Ben Folds was explicitly making fun of at this time. That was his whole shtick with that, was the oh shit, I'm gonna say fuck, you know, like that's the, like, you better be scared because I'm gonna say
it's a fucked up place. Everybody know by the fucked up face. Dude, Limp Bizkit, I don't know. I don't want to do too much fucking Limp Bizkit apologia right now. Not as bad as people make them out to be. I feel like there were far worse nu metal bands.
No,
like
it's
Saliva, Dope. Coal Chamber. There, I don't know. I'm trying to think. No, they were worse than Mudvayne probably. But like,
yeah,
I don't know, about the same level as Mudvayne. God, I mean, there's just like a lot that you forget about, and then you're reminded, and you're just like, oh yeah, that sucks.
Yeah,
that truly does.
Oh yeah, because it's like, right, we only remember the bands that were good. We don't remember just like all the chaff that was getting pushed, the also rans.
Right, and even when people are talking about bands, and they're like, oh, that was dope. If you like think back to, you know, whatever POD or something, you're just remembering Alive or Youth of the Nation, and not like every other song they ever wrote. You know what I mean? Right? Like, that's another way that it's
I grew up as a young evangelical, so I have more POD songs that come to mind than just that. But I know the idea. I know that I get the point you're making. I really like this Corey Taylor quote where he was introducing the song Heretic Anthem. So we were talking about his lyrics, you know, and he's explaining the song, and he says, a couple months ago, some evil people, some money-hungry, cock-sucking idiot motherfuckers came to us and said, you know, if you want your next album to be huge, you got to write a radio-friendly song. Now, being that we are Slipknot, we are 9 crazy people from the middle of nowhere, 9 people that do not give one rat fuck about what the fucking music industry fucking thinks. We stood there politely, we processed the information, and we said, well, thank you, Mr. Businessman, but if you'll excuse me, all caps, suck my motherfucking dick.
Hell
and
yes,
this next song is a result of that fucking conversation. If you're 5'5", then I am 6'6". The song is called the Heretic song.
It's literally just the Kyle Gordon nu metal character where he's like, I'm gonna say it. Fuck you. It's literally just... It's literally just that. Like that's what he is.
No, yeah.
It's so funny to me because it's like, oh god, it's I mean, this is a very overused word. It's like, it's so cringe, and it's funny because this is like a perennial music industry like thing. Probably most famously, I mean, whatever, like going back to like Pink Floyd released like 3 albums about their record contract. That if you don't say their 10 out of 10s, you get shot. And, even in nu metal, it's like, y'all want a single, say fuck that, fuck that, fuck that. Shout out, like literally, like fucking Korn had a song about this exact topic.
I love that song.
That
does rule.
Well, so that being said, though, like I Josh mentioned this off mic, though, was that like Slipknot got in a pretty fucking bad record deal off the bat. And I think this goes back to the Iowa thing. Like we're talking about here is because And I get where their anger is coming from, even if it comes out in this like boneheaded way, like we're talking about, because it's like, yeah, they're a bunch of like guys from the middle of fucking nowhere who are gonna take the first fucking thing they get offered because they didn't think they were gonna make it, and then they're stuck in a terrible fucking
many such cases. And I do want to say, though, I saw a clip of Corey Taylor today preparing for this episode where he said a lot of people don't know that the craziest people live in Des Moines.
That's so true.
That's not possible.
That's so true, man.
Okay. Can we talk for a little bit just about this whole thing? Can we talk for 1 second just about this whole... Holy fuck, man. Like, it is so silly. Like, the guy with the mask that's like a long nose with a zipper and like the whole... Motherfuck the industry and fuck the whole world. Fuck you too. Like, what the fuck? What is this? It's so fucking goofy.
Yeah, I mean, no, it is 100% like Midwest trailer trash culture. Like it is needlessly aggro, directionless anger. This small town is making me feel like an insane clown shit. Like it just like it is just that it is lizard brain aggression. But also this need to just endlessly explore this poetry of obscenity and anger.
Yeah. I mean, I whatever. There's like a whole thing to be said about how the late 90s were also like the time of the Office guy movie, right? Of, Office Space, The Matrix, like
American Beauty,
Fight Club, and this, I think all of which came out in 1999. But this has been like so heavily explored. I barely want to relitigate it, but like, this kind of like thing of like, this like anger in the face of like stultification under capitalism and whatever, like austerity covered by prosperity and all these things that the 90s represented, and then also like a lack of identity politics or like even like a class consciousness at all, really. Mm-hmm. I don't think I think it's a little whatever. I don't totally love that line of criticism. One, because I think in a lot of cases it like inadvertently can lead to like tokenism, where it's like, oh, I don't want to, be like supporting art that is like angry white dude art, so I'm just gonna Google movies for women or something, like, or I'm gonna be like, I love here's my favorite horror movies. I love Halloween, and I love Nightmare on Elm Street, and I love Get Out. Where it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like this kind of like goofy, like I'm not racist, I'm not sexist kind of thing can come out of it, where it's like, you're not really even engaging with the art you're using as like a symbol for your own, like, I think it can lead to bad things if you like over fixate on that stuff like a little bit too much. Like, I think you need to kind of articulate an alternative in a lot of ways. But that being said, like, I think we can that's the thing, is that like, that's one line of thinking about what nu metal is, and then another line of thinking is that's like, well, the thing, it also represented something that really connected to a lot of people who were the most destitute people in the entire country. It really did connect this genre that was previously almost like very lily white to a lot of people of color, to like a lot of women in a way that previous genres didn't. And a lot of the stuff that came to replace it as the new cool shit, like The Strokes, is kind of like just as alienating, if we're going to be honest, to a lot of those demographics as nu metal was, just in different ways, right? Like, what really better has come out of the Julian Casablancas archetype, like Matty Healy? Like, it's just, you know, I don't know what we're really. I think if anything, it's sort of like a formed backwards out of the disaster that was Woodstock 99.
Oh yeah, just to pigeonhole it, like, yeah, and as purely white male aggression.
When it's like, I'm not saying that's a wrong perspective to take. It also like was on an asphalt covered Air Force base where like water was too expensive, right? And it's like, and
no, like, yeah, that reading was always like, pretty fast.
It also was kind of like engineered to turn into a riot, like based on but based on like intentional mismanagement. So to just sort of say it was like the underlying like rage or political whatever of the attendance is like a little silly.
This is to reference an episode me and Josiah did, the history of hardcore, not hardcore history, which is a different thing. But like, we really characterize that as like, you know, the music of those left behind by this dawning prosperity of it. And so I think it might be more helpful to characterize it as like that kind of music finding like incredible success in the mainstream music industry. Of the time.
Tom's line from that episode was that hardcore became music during the end of history for the people that history didn't end for.
Right.
And I think that's a good framing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's still kind of the role that not hardcore in terms of what it originally meant, but like music that came out of hardcore means, at least, you know, in my local scene in New England, is that it still is genuinely connected to like far left politics and like venues like being like, hey, we're also doing like mutual aid or like a drive or like something. Like it does have like an actual genuine, it's easy to be like just cynical about everything and to just be like everything is like a, you know, a TikTok or a Vine or whatever. But it's like, yeah, of course, everything looks like it's for TikTok or Vine or Twitter when you look at the world through TikTok or Vine or Twitter, man. Like, you have to actually get out in the world. Like, it isn't as if you get into, like, a fucking basement hardcore show and everyone has, like, the mindset about the music industry of, like, Baby No Money, right? Like, it's not as if everyone is just like, here's the part that's going to go viral on TikTok of my new breakdown or whatever. It's like, no one's actually... No. The people who think like that are considered lame. And you just see a ton of the lame people because it does work for this algo shit. If you're viewing it for this algo shit, it's not for you because you are whack.
Right. That's wearing my Mind Force hat. But I mean, like, then they have a TikTok go viral. The guy, like, you know, screaming about like, if you just watch this on TikTok, you're not part of the scene. You have to come to shows. You have to hang out.
Right.
Well, thanks, Jay Mind Force.
So here's my sort of closing thoughts on like Iowa as an album is that it's like, it's better than most of the mainstream nu metal albums that were released. It might be a high watermark for Slipknot, especially in terms of heaviness. But it's like, it's not Under the Fur, it's not Hybrid Theory, it's not Mesmerize, it's not Bitterness the Star, it's not Battle of Los Angeles. It's like, it's, you know, it's not, in my opinion, this top tier of metal albums. You can't even say it's the best nu metal album of 2001 because fucking Toxicity comes out that year.
Yeah,
like,
that's
I think
that's
a couple weeks after after Iowa dropped.
And you hear Toxicity and you're like, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's because of where I'm from, but I'm like, this is so much more tasteful.
I agree.
Toxicity is an all-timer.
Toxicity is
one of my
a much better record than this. Yeah. Sorry.
It's like, shit, this is so creative. It's so odd. They're like the weirdest new band to come out since Primus, really. Like, they were so unique and were like mainstream and huge.
I know.
And they have elements of themselves that are like almost as stupid as some of the stuff that Slipknot does in terms of their like nonsense lyrics and like fucking, you know, eye bulging on stage and shit like that. But in terms of their, like, at least musicality, I always felt like a little bit, you know, a notch above, like head and shoulders above.
Significantly more on the mind, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Like, not that that's the thing you should judge new metal by any means, but there's a lot more going on in Surge's head, I think, than Corey Taylor. You know what? I haven't even mentioned this yet. I haven't talked about that I've met Corey Taylor a number of times. I can't believe that hasn't come up with. Well, he's kind of an asshole, but I mean, like, the only way that, like, but the context I've only ever seen him in are customer service situations, so I can just say he's kind of an asshole to the customer service guy at Target.
Can you tell me any Corey Taylor stories?
I don't have any fucking stories. Well, no, okay, I'll get there, but no, like, he's just a regular. 2 separate jobs I've been at. I've met a lot of Corey Taylor because it was when I worked at a coffee shop. His son was a regular there, and then when I worked at a Target, it was the Target that I think was nearest to his house, and so he would go there all the time. Now his son, I don't want to be too mean here, but his son is the most annoying person I've ever met.
Come on, man.
I'm so
you
sorry.
Can't say I don't want to be too mean.
So he would wait in line and he would put earbuds in and sing along out loud to metal music he was listening to. So he would be in line at a coffee shop practicing his screaming with no music around us. So we're just hearing him go, "Ah!"
That's so funny.
And then he'd come up and he'd order a shake. He'd always order a shake. And then he would do that in a fake English accent for no reason. And then say, "Thanks, bruv," after you gave it to him. And he would do that like once a week. So I got to see him like once a week. And so I kind of got really annoyed with the Taylors. It's like Corey would always be like
terrible social skills and no awareness of himself.
Well, and then that makes me mad at Corey, because I'm like, okay, your son is clearly this way because you were out fucking every woman and like doing cocaine while your son was at home. You have another house in Las Vegas. I don't think you take your son there. I think you ditch him, and then he's just had to like kind of figure his own way. So that little look into the actual lives of Corey Taylor, I don't particularly like the man.
What was he like one-on-one? What was Corey like one-on-one?
He's just kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
He's like quiet and like standoffish, you know?
Yeah.
But that, of course, this is the context of him returning some shit at Target. So that's how he.
In all fairness, that's a pretty good attitude to take on.
Yeah, I guess.
In that situation.
He wasn't a direct asshole to me in the way like a number of suburban moms.
I don't know why I'm running defense for fucking Corey Taylor.
Corey
who
Taylor
cares?
right now.
I'm more running defense for my own behavior at Target. I guess.
You're like, well, this sounds like me.
No, I'm just being like, I'm trying to return this bag, and I don't know if I don't have a receipt, so I don't know if there's going to be a whole thing about it. And I'm going in already hot. I'm going in already anxious because it broke as soon as I bought it. And I'm like, this is kind of your fault, but also it is my fault for like losing the receipt. But I can't like concede that to you because then you're not going to give it to me back. Like I've got to act like I'm totally in the right, even though I kind of
no. The customer service guy doesn't give a shit either. he just wants you to get that return so you go away. So it's not a problem.
I hate returning shit. It makes me feel like weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's like, nobody, having also served behind the counter at Target also, like, the people like front of like do not care.
I'm not up against the person, dude. I'm up against the whole corporation.
Oh yeah, we all are.
So's everyone working there.
I worked at an Office Max. I worked at an Office Max print center. Here's my bona fides, and I gotta say, I know this sounds implausible, but I hesitate to believe that there is a retail job in an area of the economic background that I was working in that has that high of a density of clearly insane people in the middle of the day. And because it was so high that's almost inconceivable. And like if you are going to pick up an online order at the Office Max Print Center at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, like 50-50 you have a personality disorder. Like it's and look, man, the stakes were not high. We're talking about like pencils. We're talking about
I know, yeah.
Shit, I mean, that was not at most I'm printing out a blueprint and we know that guy. He's chill. Yeah. Like that guy's fine. He just doesn't want to buy that printer because it's so expensive. Yeah. But you know, most of the time it's like very low stakes shit.
See, this is the thing. If you're anxious about going and returning something at Target, here's what you got to understand: is the calculus that's going on in the brain of the Target employee is this: how can I make you so that you're not mad at me, but also not do anything that will get me yelled at by a higher up?
Right.
And they're just trying to balance that. That's always what's going on. That's it. If they're telling you I can't do something, it's because they don't want to get yelled at by a manager.
Shout out to my boss Jonathan at that job, who would just go. We had like earpieces in, and he'd just go on the horn and just talk about how depressed he was.
That's so cool.
I felt bad for that guy, man. I know people are like, every boss is a bad boss. I'm like, Jonathan was struggling. Like,
he was struggling. Okay, in Corey Taylor's defense about the whole craziest people live in Iowa thing, that Target job did give me some of that. I'm not saying it's like the craziest, but I'm saying like I remember a guy walking in. He's just like got like a massive neck tattoo of like a skull, and he's got like a pair of rusty hedge clippers, and he walked into the Target and nobody stopped him, and he just went over and cut the spider wrap off an iPad and then walked out the door with it. And I think he just walked with enough confidence that everyone's like, oh, he seems to know what he's doing. There's like that shit all the time. There was almost a riot one time at like a Black Friday at that Target because they did like a deal on some phone, and then they only had like 10 phones. So there were people that had been like waiting in line for hours. And there was only like 10 of them. So then they tried to deal with the situation by being like, you'll get free Starbucks. And so then what that turned into was...
that's even worse. That just
turned into a different borderline riot because there was only like one barista working at the Target Starbucks because it was overnight. And so then 1,000 angry people migrate over to that part of the store to all purchase lattes. So this like poor teen girl is like at like 4 a.m. trying to make 1,000 fucking lattes.
I would have just gone home, man. If I showed up for a phone and they're like, "You're gonna have coffee," I would have been like, "Dude, I'm not doing this." Yeah.
Well, and there was someone else. There was someone who was taking shots in their car and then coming back. And then, like at one point, they were like, they grabbed like a baseball bat, and so like security had to be like, "No, we are not going this direction," because she was drunk and was like pointing at the you know where the locked up phones and being like, "There is more, and they're hiding them from us." And so, like, trying to
it's so crazy. The customer comes into like one bump in the road, and then immediately they're like a fucking Girondin. Like immediately, it's like they're saying like the fucking the king is hoarding grain. We need to get inside of the palace. Like these like immediately he's like ready to storm the fucking Bastille over this shit.
The beliefs that people have about the capabilities of a back room in a retail establishment
is amazing.
Like boggle my mind. I'm like,
have you checked in the back? Yeah. Punching it into this fucking computer is checking in the back.
Ma'am, this entire store is a scam to sell printer ink. That's why the store exists. We're trying to trick you into buying printer ink. Everything else is a loss.
Yeah, this is a giant scam for you to get a red card. Okay, all right, for you to get like 5% off everything you purchase at Target. That's it. That's all that's going on here.
Nothing else is my job. I'm selling you printer ink.
Okay. it's retail. What a concept.
Do you understand? My job is to be the punching bag between corporate and you. They have hired me to stand here, and you can call me a pussy. You can call me a piece of shit.
I am the baby on Elon Musk's neck. That's my role. Okay.
Damn, dude. Okay. Iowa.
Slipknot, Iowa.
Is there
anything else to say? I think we said it pretty much.
Yeah. I do want to say, like, going back and because this was the first time I'd listened to this record in its entirety. Like, I've heard some of the singles before for sure, but I was more of a Volume 3 guy, which is the Sellout record. They were already platinum on this. What does that even mean? They just
didn't say fuck. They agreed not. They didn't want to.
Oh yeah, they agreed not to say fuck, and it was like a lot more. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they didn't say fuck. Oh yeah, that's
if that's duality on it. Come on, guys, it's a great track.
I mean, duality is so good. Vermilion. There's a lot of good tracks on that record.
Yeah, come on, it's an awesome singles.
But going back and listening to this, I'm just like, it is the current crop of like up and coming hardcore bands. I mean, we've already mentioned like Knocked Loose, but that whole, the Knocked Loose vein, Code Orange generation that's really been taking off since they're all like a decade into their careers. I'm like, oh, the new crop of kids. It's like, no, they're like established artists. But
Knocked Loose kind of broke through in a way they hadn't before last year.
It's true. Yes, it's true. They are contemporaries of
the news thing is Chat Pile, Josh.
Oh god, yeah, they're exploding. Yeah. I like Chat Pile's good.
I haven't heard it.
Flenser has got to be one of the most like dependable record labels in the world for creating like viral moments. Weirdly.
Yeah, that's wild. Anyway, like I think this record is just in the DNA of heavy music.
Yeah.
Now. Like, I mean, they had and the way they had digested all those extreme, like, because I'd heard everybody, they've got like so much death metal influence on Iowa, bro. I'm like, yeah, fucking right. It's Slipknot. They don't know. And then you go and listen. It's like, oh no, they did it. They made a melodic death metal record without it being melodic death metal proper. Like,
they made a melodic, a new metal. Melodic death metal album,
and they just kind of brute forced it because it's like it's I think it's they're not really I mean, because if you want to get into the genealogy there, like melodic death metal proper is a European product. It comes out of the Swedish death metal scene, and it's like and there's just not really an equivalent phenomena. Like it came out in metalcore. Like it was metalcore bands that really seized on, because you listen to an At the Gates riff. I mean, that's on every fucking metalcore album that came out in 2005. And they'll all admit it. They're like, we like At the Gates, we like Children of Bodom, we want to get good at our guitars. And who doesn't? That shit rips. But yeah, no, it's like they're clearly just listening to like Tampa and New York death metal, and they're like, what if we just sang clean over these riffs? And it's like, wow, that works. Dude. Sick. Yeah. Like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's just massive. And I mean, this is what, the kids that are up and coming in the heavy music scene of your choice, like, this is their classic rock. It's all, it's like, it's dad's music. It's Korn and Slipknot, and then go from there. Good record.
I forgot to mention that there's a haunted house in Des Moines that's inspired by Slipknot. It's called the Slaughterhouse. I've always kind of hated it, but I've never been there. But it's because if I remember correctly, I think it's the same one. They would like send dudes in like costumes where it's like a fucked up pig head or whatever to like various events in Des Moines, so like music festivals and then like the food fair or something like that, and then it would just be like antisocial weird guys in those, and it's like what they mostly did was just like find 12-year-olds to scare. So I've always kind of just did like that. Just bad vibes from those guys.
But I mean, like, I don't know, if they're scaring the evangelicals, like, I can't fault them.
That's fine. I mean, they seem to be more interested in scaring children, which was like, you're at a food festival, man. You're not at like a place that you should expect that. You're chasing a 12-year-old with a fake chainsaw. Like that's not cool. That's weird.
That is some Midwestern edgelord behavior for sure.
Anyway, this album, though, I can recognize that it is good. I'm not a huge fan of it personally, but I can recognize. I can't deny the riffs. Can't deny it. So
there's some riffs on there.
There's
some riffs on this record.
You have all forced me to admit that Slipknot is pretty good.
Yeah, and it does, like, I don't know, when you have like an atmospheric intro and then like a closing track that's like way too long and slow. I am such a sucker for those moves.
Kind of rips. It honestly kind of rips.
And then just like and even though it's like he didn't need to do all that, just having the, like, he like cut himself and like vomited in the booth, like, it adds something to it. It's like if you saw the expanded edition of Alien's playlist I made in the Discord, I made sure to put Dope Sick by I Hate God, which is like opening that record is Mike Williams like smashing a bottle in the studio and cutting himself. But just I
think that's it. I think I'm gonna go listen to Toxicity now.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real. Like, this album is a little long, and about midway through, there was a part of my brain that started spacing and just like remembering Meteora existing.
Yeah,
and being like, I can't think. Some is like pretty fucking long. I've tried to put that on at when I was like going to college parties in college. I would go. My move was that when people were just dancing, I'd go up to the computer that was playing Spotify, and I would surreptitiously add "Faint" by Linkin Park to the to the
little bit of loneliness.
It got skipped every time. Shit, dude. Are we donezo, bro? Are we donezo here?
Yeah. Is there anything you guys want to shout out or advertise or something?
I want to shout out. I don't know. I'm just going to shout out some shit I think is cool right now. I'm going to shout out a Hybe podcast, which is Blank Check with Griffin and David.
No,
we're having their yearly March Madness right now, which is pretty dope. A lot of fun if you're really into like movie nerd shit. And a Lobby podcast that I think I'm one of the only listeners to, Banks and Tranks. Great comedy politics podcast. They're just a group of friends in a bedroom. They're the ones that I stole the joke of calling myself Dark Woke from. They came up with that. In terms of TV shows, watch SpongeBob, and in terms of music, you know what, dude? I'm gonna shout out fucking just listen to the debut Black Dahlia Murder album. That's pretty sick.
Oh man, thanks for including some Black Dahlia on there. I forgot how much that band rips. It's been a while.
Rule. That's cool because they are just kind of like, what if At the Gates was American? And it's like, yeah, it's cool. You know what I mean? I love At the Gates. That's dope. Shout out. I don't know. What's a fucking watch Southland Tales.
Oh, it's a good one. That's a good movie.
I'm sorry.
I love Southland Tales.
It's pretty good. Okay, whatever. I think parts of it are pretty cool, but then there are other parts of it that are
whack. Yeah. But that's another thing. Like, the whackness is part of it.
No,
like,
you're right.
If you take the whackness out of Southland Tales, it ceases to be Southland Tales.
Right. Well, there are parts that are the opening is so peak. The opening and ending are so peak, and it has an incredibly good scene in the middle, which is Justin Timberlake dancing.
Oh, and lip syncing to
all these things
killers.
That are done.
All these,
but then it's like, why does Stifler say the N-word in it? And like, why is like, it's like, why is there like a scene where Kevin Smith is like in a weird bad fake beard and gets shot? I don't know what else is. And books. I don't know. I'm reading a fucking Doppelganger right now. Everybody's already read it. It's good. All right, You know what? A book that everybody already says is good. Just read fucking Doppelganger. You know, I know it's like the most acclaimed nonfiction book of the last 10 years or something. But shout out Doppelganger by Naomi Klein.
Oh, nice.
Hell yeah.
Josh, you got anything to shout out?
Yeah. Okay. Fruitless Podcast. because
yeah.
I'm on it. I'm on it so much these days.
He's on it a lot.
Regular featured guest. Man, music wise, I'm gonna go Cursed. The first Cursed album specifically. Nice. I'm obsessed with that band. Movies. Oh my god.
He's the listener. Josh is clearly.
Oh my god. Sorry, I did not look at my phone, and my incredible wife is a veteran of the music industry and has Amur overheard me talking about Amur. And I got Amur was on Victory. Frankie was in my car once. LMFAO. He's a chode.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Thanks, baby. So I guess fuck Amur. Disrespected my wife. Amur disrespected my wife. Okay, music. Right, I was gonna draw out the bit by scrolling through my Letterboxd history just to see what
you need to cut part of that.
Oh, this is great. I love it when we do this.
Okay, I liked. No, that's not good enough. Oh no, yeah, no. Long Legs. I liked Long Legs. Watch Long Legs.
That movie. Yeah,
people. Yeah. I think it got properly rated. I think.
Not underrated, not overrated. Just the right amount of rated.
Right amount of rated. Does a lot of things good. Biffs a few. Anyway, worth a watch. Books. Just finished Stormfront by Jim Butcher.
Is that about the website?
No. It's about a wizard who lives in Chicago. And it's trying to be like, okay, like I had fun with it because it does the fantasy shit really good, but the prose sucks and the guy's never been to Chicago. There is just like no, like he mentions a couple touristy landmarks and then supposedly has this broke ass wizard living in a basement apartment in the West Loop, and I'm just like, that's not how this city functioned when this book was published in 2002. I'm kind of ripping on it. It kind of sucks, but it's like pretty fun. So like worth a read. Yeah, that's all I got.
I'm having a hard time right now because despite the fact that the show has been focusing on like hardcore and metal a lot lately, I've personally been in my listening just I think in a complete reaction to having listened to so much heavy music. So I'm listening to like Men I Trust and the Marias and shit like that. So if you want a complete change of pace, check out, I don't always.
Marry me, Archie.
Marry me, Archie. I don't know. Tom Waits is good.
Tom Waits is good.
Aside from that, movies, I don't have any recommendations for because I've been torturing myself by going through the Marvel movies right now, so I don't have anything to fucking say about that. You want to go fucking my fucking recommendation is Iron Man 2. All right, there you go. Go fucking watch that.
The one with like Randy and overtones.
Oh man,
there's an Elon Musk cameo in that.
There's an Elon Musk cameo in that, and also has the most chilling line in any Marvel movie I've ever heard. That's played as an applause line, which is "I've successfully privatized world peace," and that's a line that's dropped that's supposed to make you go like, "Fuck yeah, Tony Stark!"
Dude, that's like neoconservatism in a nutshell, man. Privatize world peace.
Horrifying. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. All right. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode. Hey, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps out with the algorithm. And if you really like what you heard, consider supporting the show on Patreon. And hey, one of the benefits of supporting this show on Patreon is that you get your name read out at the end of every episode. So without further ado, this episode is brought to you by our lovely patrons who include Avakai Brodagam, I Drink Corn Syrup, Yum, I Am Once Again, Leo Zachary Dickinson, Philip Cozy, Vita Breva, Attention Francis, Derek Gale, Gavin Aronson, Josh Christensen, hey Josh, Kyle Gannis, Mitchell McKinley, Moss, Nathan Thiessen, Randy Sutton, Regular Sized Horse, parentheses, Small. Robert Eilman, Stephen aka Spike Stonehand, The Worst of All Possible Worlds, Vicky Sutton Yeens, and of course, Chris Barker. Now here's People Equal Shit by Slipknot.
Here we go again, motherfucker! An idiot right here. Too far to make and I'm afraid again. What's the matter? Looking at me anyway. Run, get the fuck out of my face. Understand that I can't feel anything. Into the like I wanna sip through the decay. I feel like a wound, like I got a fucking gun against my